What in the Minnesota is this? This isn't Illinois weather. I want sunny and 75, not 30 degrees and 3 to 5 inches of snow. Our poor crops, they don't even know what's going on right now. I'm inside right now seeking shelter from this miserable weather. Didn't think I was gonna have to break out the Hartung Family Farm stocking cap again this year, but I guess things change. This was not the weather we were expecting. Illinois can be rather erratic about any time of the year. Snow, rain, storms, you never know what you're gonna get. It's kind of a grab bag. We are going to have to pay very close attention to our early planted crops to make sure that they do not get killed in the next few days. The snow is not our biggest enemy. We have a frost coming tomorrow morning with a low of 27 to 28 degrees. Whew. Our poor naked soybean plants are going to be in trouble if they're pretty far out of the soil. This video is going to keep an eye on them as the next few days progress. Let's go check out how much progress we have so far in our fields. Nothing like a snow on April 20th in Illinois. A tracking snow nonetheless. My truck's like, what's going on? What is this white stuff? You and me both, buddy. We're both concerned. I can't even look at the snow or my lens gets covered. We'll start with the least likely of the 2 fields of soybeans we planted the first go around. I don't think this field will be emerged yet. It's a lighter soil. It doesn't get that quick of a start, even though it dries out very fast. I can't see anything from the truck. I'll go walk out there though to ease my mind. I kind of feel like we're on a farewell tour for our soybeans. If we find any that are out of the ground pretty far, it may very well be farewell to those soybeans. Somewhat good news from my scouting report on this field. Every now and then, once in a blue moon, you do run into one soybean that's kind of popped through the soil. For the most part though, 99.9% of this field has not emerged or broken through the soil yet, which is a good sign, but also a bad omen for the next field we're about to check, because if there are soybeans almost out of the ground here, guarantee on the next one, there are soybeans, probably a lot of soybeans out of the ground. It's unfortunate that something so beautiful can be so tragic. The cruelest part about this is that next week, it's going to be 80 degrees. What did we do to deserve this for a couple days? We're headed to field number 2. Everyone stay calm. No reason to be concerned. Unless, of course, you don't want to replant soybeans. Then you should be concerned. Hello? 911, I'd like to report a murder. This whole field's almost emerged. As I expected, there is a lot of soybeans out of the ground. Probably 85 to 90% of them. Getting nice and cozy with that snow. I talked about the differences in soil temperature. Right now, you'll actually really see the areas that have the most snow should theoretically have the least amount of soybeans emerged. Because they already have larger accumulation of snow on top of the ground, that tells you that that soil was cooler. The areas that have the least amount of snow probably was warmer, so most likely that is where the largest majority of the soybeans planted have already emerged. I don't know if we should be concerned, but the snow is not necessarily a bad thing. It may sound counterintuitive, it could be our friend. It is comforting to see that there are areas of the field where it's not emerged, or at least very few are out of the ground. That means worst case scenario, we don't have to replant every single acre out here. Hey, there's a heron. Here's an area of the field that has a lot of snow cover. You can see, as I mentioned, very few of these soybeans are out of the ground. Areas within the specific region that don't have a lot of snow, there are soybeans popping out of the ground. This just kind of gives you a better idea of emergence and soil temperature. A lot of diversity across this field. Ooh, I can't feel my hands. Imagine how these soybeans feel. This guy right here is about the farthest along one I could find. We're gonna take him with us for science. This is our little buddy right here that we brought with us from the field. He's probably going to be temporarily happy that he hopped in for the ride, and in about 5 to 10 minutes he's going to realize that he's screwed and that he's in fact going to die, which may have been his fate out in the field as well. So this soybean plant right here is at a still very early stage in its life. These two symmetrical leaves on both sides of the plant are the cotyledons. The cotyledons are the true first seed leaves. Soybeans are dicotyledons, so they have 2 cotyledons, as the name implies. They are just now starting to unfold. They are the first soldiers out of the ground. In the middle, you can see the unifoliate leaf. The unifoliate leaf is the first stage of vegetative growth for a soybean. It is just starting to develop in between the 2 seed leaves. It isn't really counted until it unfolds. Growth stage is very important to note because it does play a role in how sensitive soybeans are to frost. At this stage, soybeans are less affected by cold weather than they would be once the unifoliate and the following trifoliates emerge. Obviously, we would be better off if this soybean plant was still in the ground, but we are in a better scenario that it isn't farther along than it already is. And like I said, this soybean plant is farther along in its journey than most of the other soybeans out in the field. I'm optimistic that the youthful nature of these soybeans right now and the blanket of snowfall we're getting out in the field is going to offer us sanctity from the freezing weather we have tonight. Free ride's over. So you're probably wondering, why would snow be a good thing? It's very counterintuitive to think about it this way because snow is associated with cold weather. Snow is like a blanket across the ground. It insulates all the soil underneath it and acts as a buffer from the external temperature above. In this case, it should keep the ground and all the soybeans underneath it protected from the 28 to 27 degree low we have tonight. If it does work out that way, we should actually be in good shape. If in fact it does not insulate the ground and these soybeans are negatively affected by this frost, we are going to be in trouble, because if both of those cotyledons I showed you die from frost damage, there is no more growing, the plant is done. Corn, like we have across the road here, is a little bit different in the fact that frost damage, as long as it's not farther along in its vegetative process, will only hurt the plant, it will not kill it. As long as the growing point is still below the ground, corn will keep shooting out new leaves. Now there probably will be a 10 to 20% impact in yield. We shouldn't have to worry about that though, because none of our corn's emerged. Let's just hope that Mother Nature has a little bit of mercy and keeps the snow falling to protect our soybeans. I'm not holding my breath. I am optimistic though that our crop will be fine. I mean, what else can we do? We've already put in the order for replant soybeans if they die. It's not going to be the first time we replant soybeans. It's certainly not going to be the last. This is just part of farming. You never know what the future holds. At the time we planted these soybeans, it looked like a good time to go. Time will tell, because it still very well may be fine, which may still actually hold true. If nothing negative comes out of this, these soybeans already have an early start to their life. Next week it's gonna be warm and they'll be off to the races. Or we'll be off to the races in the planter. Either one. Hey, that's just part of our job. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow and we'll see what we open up out of Pandora's box. And by the next morning, the sun was shining, it's already 40 degrees, and most of the snow is melted. Pretty aggressively melting to add. You hear it running off of all the buildings. One fortunate development we had overnight, other than the fact that we had a good blanket of snow on the ground, was that it did not get as cold as they were calling for. I don't think the ambient temperature dipped below 30 degrees, which is good. Every degree counts in terms of survivability for your crops. One thing I did not realize though, is that we actually have corn up. I probably couldn't see it yesterday because of the hellacious snowstorm we were having, but that is not something I wanted to see. It's not all up by any means, but you can almost row the corn. Rowing the corn is just essentially you can see the row. If you look out there, it's not really sporadic. I would say we were one more day of warm weather away from all of this corn being up out of the ground. I don't believe last night was enough of a dagger to damage it. We won't really be able to tell for 3 or 4 days though. That is one of the challenges with assessing frost damage. It's hard to see what damage has actually been done until either it dies off or you can do kind of a rough check by grabbing the plant. At this stage, it's not the easiest thing to do, but you just got to see what kind of rigidity there is to the leaves. If the leaves are very soft and floppy, that pretty much tells you that the frost got it. These 2 plants here seem to be fine. I'm sure there are a few plants out here that were dinged. That guy does not look like he fared well. Could have had some other ailment. One thing I forgot to mention about these plants is they do have some slight degree of natural antifreeze inside of them. 32 degrees is not the threshold that will kill these plants. I'm fairly certain that the threshold for plant tissue death is about 27 to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything around there is not ideal. I don't think that we got cold enough last night to actually need to be worried about our corn. The soybeans, I think, are a little bit more sensitive to cold. We had that snow, we should be all right. We can go do all the scouting in the world we want right now. Realistically, we won't know for 3 to 4 days what kind of damage was done to the field. I'm more of a glass half full type of guy. I'd say everything's perfectly fine. Do have to weather another cold night tonight. Not quite as cold, I think 31 degrees. Shouldn't be an issue. Not the weather we were hoping for when we put these seeds in the ground. I certainly don't enjoy an ice bath. I know our plants don't either. There's really not that much to see out here in this first planted soybean field. Again, much like the corn, it's going to take 3 or 4 days before we can actually tell if any damage was done. I sure hope not, because I don't want to replant this field. One time's good enough for me. I am actually somewhat concerned for anyone who planted corn 2 days ago. So not yesterday, obviously it was snowing, but the day prior to yesterday, there was a lot of corn being planted. I've talked multiple times about cold water imbibition. You don't want to plant corn within 48 to 72 hours of cold moisture. Well, a snow and 30 degrees is exactly what I would call cold moisture. So I really hope all those people who are planting out there don't run into germination issues. That's not a guaranteed problem, but it is statistically significant. It's something that we've started to keep in mind over the last few years. I'm sure other farmers take this into account as well. To be blunt though, we really would not have had any idea that this existed without the information from our agronomist at Pioneer, Paul Yoder. He's a very sharp guy. I run all of my agronomy questions through him. He gives us very well-rounded, evidence-based opinions on what we should be doing on our farm. Now, occasionally he throws his opinion in there. What's farming without someone's opinion involved? Fortunately for us, we finished planting corn 5 days ago at this point. If something does go wrong for the people who planted 2 days ago, this could be a learning opportunity. We learned the same way 3 years ago, planting a bunch of corn the day ahead of a cold rain. Had huge problems across our fields. Replanted hundreds of acres of corn from this specific phenomena. Just one of the many external factors you have to keep in mind when you're farming. It's not all sunshine and roses out here when the dirt's dry. You gotta look at the forecast. This is probably the most exciting thing I'm going to do today. Just enjoy the ambiance. A snowy spring morning, full tank of diesel fuel. Better than nothing. Well, I shouldn't have said that. We're actually out of diesel fuel. Fast forward, it is the next day now. Does it look like it was frozen this morning? We had snow yesterday? No, not really. As a matter of fact, we may have dodged an uppercut from Mother Nature the last 2 nights. 2 nights ago, it got down to about 29 degrees. We had some snow cover, which insulated our ground. And I don't think once the 29 degrees got to the soil level, it was really cold enough to hurt our crops. Last night, it didn't even get below freezing, which they were calling for 30 degrees. The ambient temperature that we received was closer to 34, 35. Someone's watching out for us out here. Not only did we have luck on our side, 4/10 of an inch of rain or snow combined, and look at our ground. Dry on top. Would you believe that? Heck, we may be planting by the end of the day, if not by tomorrow. If you told me 2 days ago that these were the cards we were gonna have in our hand, I would have told you you're crazy, but that's the way things turned out. We're potentially sitting in a situation where all those early planted crops could take some serious damage. Now we look like geniuses because we survived that with little to no issue, and they're going to be way ahead of anyone else who starts planting in the next few weeks. Old Mother Nature, she sure is temperamental. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I don't think you would have expected this after what we had the last couple days. Field cultivating. Jeff said he broke some bolts on here somewhere. That's definitely what's broken. We'll have to go get that bolt. It's a pretty heavy piece of metal. Made it right to get it. Alright, back in action. This is what the old one looked like. It's a little bit bent. Look at that, another field that's about ready to plant. Probably not today, it's kind of cool. I doubt it'll dry out as quick as we'd like it to. Maybe by tomorrow it'll be in better shape. Realistically though, not bad at all. Although judging by the amount of mud on the road from the field cultivator, probably is best to wait. No planting today, but we are going to back the planter out of the barn to save us some time. We already had the door open to get the 4-wheel drive tractors out to hook back to the field cultivators. Might as well get this done too. Less of a barrier to keep us from planting tomorrow. Not that we really need any kind of deterrent. We're usually pretty aggressive to get to the field. Back in the sunshine. Snow on the ground 36 hours ago, and now we're pulling the planter out. What a strange world we live in. We'll do future Andy a favor here and put the planter down. Okay. See you tomorrow, planter. That's impressive that that is still on there. If I was that thing, I'd be long gone. Katie just brought her tractor and fueled it up from working a few fields. She's got somewhere to take off to, so I'm just gonna park it out of the way for the night. I'm still baffled that we're out farming today.